Fidelity just released their 2022 retirement analysis analyzing last year. What's the average 401k balance? How much did it drop last year? What's the average contribution amount? I've got all those details and more coming up. My name is Mike Bernard. I'm the host of the Wise Money Show. I'm also one of the certified financial planners right here at Korhorn Financial Group. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and smash that thumbs up button. Fidelity and Vanguard are the two giants in the retirement plan space, 401k space. I think Fidelity's got the edge now, and their data says they're the number one. I believe that that's true, but between these two companies, they're giants, they're titans. And based on that means they've got a lot of data at their fingertips. And yes, confidential and all that, but they can, every once in a while, they'll aggregate all their data of what, account balances are, contribution rates, those sorts of things, and be able to tell us sort of overall averages or give us some demographic information about what's going on with the average person's retirement. It's very, very helpful, even though done lots of videos where, okay, what's the average net worth, average 401k, average retirement, all that sort of stuff. And I would tell you, as I always do, while that's clickbait and it's interesting to compare yourself to where are you compared to average, I would really caution against comparing your situation to anyone else's. It will steal your joy. It creates envy, which is tearing our nation and people apart. And so it's all sorts of problems when you do the financial compare game. Instead, compare yourself to two people. Compare your financial situation today to who you were in the past. Are you making progress? And then compare your financial situation today to where you want to be in the future. Are you getting there? That's the context. That's the comparison game that you want to play. And by yourself, hard to have the right context. Working with the CFP, they can help give you the right context for those comparisons to make sure that you're on track and moving in the right direction. Still, what's the data? What's the data from Fidelity's most recent analysis? What's the data say? Let's first start with average account balances, average retirement account balances. Take a look at the table here for 401ks. We'll start there. Average account balance for a 401k is about $104,000. Now, that's average, right? So there's a huge spectrum there. You've got folks that have just started, and there's data in there that there's some encouraging signs. A lot of Gen Z have really started saving to their 401k. That's fantastic. Obviously, they're going to have a small balance. Then you've got folks that are near retirement that are hopefully, nearing seven figures in their 401k, and that balance is the average there is $104,000. Now, keep in mind that on average, and I think I've done some videos on this before, we've had talk shows on it, where as people transition jobs, there actually does create this gap in retirement savings, and that actually is typically not a good thing. But when you switch jobs, typically you're rolling money from a 401k over to an IRA, and so the average 401k balance really doesn't tell the full story. But as you can see, about $104,000. Average IRA balance also about $104,000. 403b is just a little bit less. Where do you stack up, right? Are you above average, below average? And I wouldn't care so much. Again, I'm not trying to entice you to take the compare game. However, are you where you want to be? And one measure of that is, well, are you above average? Or are you still grinding it out? That sort of thing. Now, the second data point that this shows, and is still on this same table, is, well, what are those averages today? But what were they a year ago? So here's the interesting thing. On average, Fidelity their data suggests that people lost about 20% in their 401ks last year. No surprise. Vanguard's data came out and said the same thing. Average balance, I think Fidelity said the average 401k lost 20.9%. Vanguard was right around 20.5, something like that. So no surprise there, guys. Absolutely no surprise. So when you look at the average balance a year ago in 401ks, 130 compared to 104, yeah, and that's still with contributions being made to them, and it still dropped that much. Guys, that's going to happen. That should not be a surprise. In fact, I'm putting that in here not to alarm you or scare you, but actually for perspective to say, listen, then don't stress. If you were down 18% or 19% last year or 16%, don't worry about it. This happens in the stock market, and over time, on average, the stock market will drop from a high point to a low point of about 14% during the year. So this type of volatility is normal. You might say, well, right now we've got highest inflation in 40 years. We've got soaring interest rates going up. Lots of signs showing the economy is slowing down. I know. This time it could get even more chaotic than it's been. However, this type of volatility is a normal part of being an investor, and depending on how close you are to the finish line, how close you are to retirement, that's going to influence how much risk and really what your performance was last year. For those of us who are still going to be working for 20 more years, 10 more years, 30 more years, don't worry about the short-term volatility. It's normal. You didn't do anything wrong if your account dropped 20% or so last year. That's really what the overall markets did. And then the final point that really stood out to me in this analysis, and I hope stands out to you as well, is that contribution amounts were steady. In fact, in some areas grew. That's fantastic. Lots of reasons out there. I had lots of conversations with folks last year who said, I don't want to keep contributing to my 401k. It feels like I contribute $1,000 and I lose $2,000. I'm throwing money away. And I've shared several videos about, listen, as you're contributing to your 401k, you're buying shares. Those shares are repriced every single day, and they might temporarily drop in value. And we don't know what temporary means. Is that 6 months? Is that 3 years? I don't know. We don't know, right? But you own more shares. You're buying more shares every time you contribute. Compare that to contributing $1,000 into your checking account. If your balance then goes down by $2,000, that money's gone. It means you spent that money. It's gone. Not so with the 401k, right? Or your IRAs. A lot of people, because of the performance, struggled to contribute and continue to contribute the same amount, but the data shows, no, it actually held steady. Now steady at 13%. 13% average contribution rate, and Fidelity actually states it in their study that's below their recommended average contribution amount, which is 15%. That's where we would tell you to start from your very first paycheck. If you haven't started saving 15% from your very first paycheck, you may need to contribute more. Depending on your circumstances, other income, your lifestyle, your whatever, you might need to be able to contribute less. All depends on your situation, but for a benchmark, I like 15% plus whatever the match is if you get one. Average rate stayed steady last year at 13.7%, right around there, but about a third of people actually increased their contributions to their 401k. I love it, and we encourage our folks, or I would encourage you, increase it by 1% every single year. You're not going to miss that money. Inflation's going to be hard and real, and cash is going to be tight. You're going to need a budget regardless. Increase by 1% each year until you're able to max out your 401ks. So that's the data. Some encouraging, some discouraging. I would love to see that 401k and IRA balances on average be, $250,000, continue to grow. I would encourage you though, again, not compare yourself to this, but where do you stand compared to where you want to be? What are your goals? How much should you have saved up by now? Are you on track? How much should you be saving? Is it 13%? Is it 14? Is it 15? Could it be 10? Should it be 20? Where are you compared to where you want to be, and are you doing enough to get there? Work with your certified financial planner on that. If you don't have a CFP on your team, contact one on my team. Find us online, Korhorn.com. That's Korhorn with a K, wisemoneyshow.com. You can find us there as well, or send us an email, info@korhorn.com. All right, there you have it. Go out and take your next wise step in your financial life.